Hello, product people. Welcome to the Product for Product podcast, hosted by Matt Green, data advocate and product manager, and Moshe Mikanovsky, product leader and author. Our goal is to serve the product community by helping you find products that can help make your work in product management easier. Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Product for Product podcast.
Welcome back. In today's episode, Moshe and I are excited to speak with Experimentation Manager and fellow podcaster Shiva Manjunath about the sunsetting of Google Optimize, Google's GA4, and how teams can adapt with new tools. So let's go ahead and hop in. How you doing, Shiv?
I'm doing great. How y'all doing?
Doing wonderful. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Moshe.
Hey, Matt. Hey, Shiv. Welcome to the show, and we're excited to have you over here. We missed you in the series that we did about experimentation. We did have your co-host on your podcast, Tracy. She was on our show.
Yep.
And she's actually coming back for another episode. So we're glad to have you finally.
Appreciate it.
Tell us first about yourself. Who is Shiva?
I am an ex-doctor. So by that, I mean, I was trying to become a doctor and I absolutely disliked it. So for the sake of all of my not patients, it's a good thing I'm not, because I was just not good at it. I really didn't like it anyway. So
you're not future patients.
I am not who would have not been future patients would have been deceased patients, most likely.
Oh, no.
Yeah. Very morbid on a Saturday morning, but
yeah.
So you experiment on software instead of on people.
I experiment on people in a much less stakes version on websites rather than live on people. Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. I've been in experimentation for about 10 years. Digital marketing was my thing after college, after saying, kind of F this, I don't want to be a doctor anymore. And that's where I've been spending a lot of time in, just everything experimentation. A little bit more of a niche on scaling and growing experimentation programs, but everything testing, just fascinating, and a pretty big focus on research-focused experimentation too.
That's excellent. And I think we actually spoke with Tracy about Google Optimize, so I'm really excited to hear
the update.
Direction. Yeah, the update on it. Yeah, the update, the latest on it, the latest on Google stuff, and GA4 as well. So I've been looking into that.
Yep.
All right. So if you were on our series about experimentation, which tool would you have recommended?
I don't want to recommend one, and I'm going to be that guy because enough. I think it's such a subjective question depending on your tool stack and what you're trying to look into. I will say some of the tools that generally come to mind for me are like Convert, Chameleon, Optimizely. These are ones that are more expensive. I guess Convert's not as expensive, but good value. But yeah, I don't want to speak entirely for one tool because I think there are considerations you should have. So things like cost and how mature is your program? Because a lot of not mature experimentation programs were running on Google Optimize because it was free. So zero cost of investment in a tool means ROI is theoretically going to be much higher, although I'd argue not because the tool is pretty limited. But you have higher ROI versus you have companies like Booking and Microsoft who are just the toppest tier of maturity, who are like, we don't want to buy a tool. We will build our own because we're so good at it. And they have dedicated experimentation people, product owners for experimentation, a whole data science team. They're so mature, they can afford to do that. So I think the better question is, where is your maturity? If you had to assess how mature are you of an experimentation program, and then evaluate things like cost, features that you need, integration with tool stack, things like that to help you guide on your decision for picking a tool.
Makes a lot of sense. So let's dive into the topic of our episode today. And it's a very timely episode. So if anyone is listening to this in like a year from now, probably you're like, what are we talking about here?
Yeah.
But who knows? Maybe in a year from now, there will be a very similar topic, maybe with another tool or whatever.
Right. Yep.
But it does happen that sometimes companies do sunset some of the products. And even Google, even if they feel that their products are great. And this is not the first product that are sunsetting. They have sunsetted a lot of products in the past. They have lots of products. They have lots of money, so I guess they can afford it. Tell us a bit about the situation. What is going on with Google Analytics and with Google Optimize?
So I know that the thing that is definitive is Universal Analytics and Google Optimize will be sunset September 30th of 2023. That's basically the only confirmed thing that we know. There's a lot of speculation and there was a lot of rumors like late last year around, Google Optimize is going to be sunset, but it was just rumors at that point. Now that is officially confirmed. The why is a little bit tricky. We don't know exactly why. And far from Google to actually be transparent about decision making with things. But it's just, if I had to guess, what they're saying is we looked at, and this is pure conjecture. I have no sources. This is just a hypothesis. Google, don't yell at me for this. So what I believe is the case is Google saw that Optimize was being used as, if I had to give an example, like, have you guys ever ordered meat thermometer pens before?
Yeah.
I think my daughter ordered one for cakes, which is very similar.
Okay. So I ordered a meat thermometer. I think it was a thermo pen, something like that. When I ordered it, they threw a free bag of jelly beans in there. And I was like, that's interesting. Did I eat any of those jelly beans? No. But it was just a gift. And they're like, hey, this is a cool thing. Thank you for ordering. What I believe happened with Google Optimize was that free bag of jelly beans that two people maybe had one sliver of, but the majority of people were using it as like a CMS or as just a thing that was there because the thing was pretty limited. Were there a decent amount of people who were using the tool legitimately? Sure. But I think on a percentage basis, not by much. I don't remember the exact stats. I think Dennis at Convert shared some stats. I forget exactly who shared this, so apologize, Dennis, if you didn't share this. But something around like the amount of people who actually installed Google Optimize and ran one actual experiment was very, very low. And that one experiment could have been a CMS edit at 100%. So the story is not many people were using Google Optimize on a percentage of installation basis as a legitimate testing tool. And it had a lot of limitations where you could only run 5 experiments at one time, one primary metric. The cool thing was it integrated with analytics out of the box. But as a testing tool, it was pretty limited. And what did you expect? It was free. It was your free bag of jelly beans. You're not going to get a whole thing of, a whole container of it. You ordered a meat pen. You didn't order jelly beans. So actually, I love this analogy, and I might steal this for myself for later.
I like the analogy a lot. You don't get the steak with the meat pen.
Exactly.
Wait, we need to trademark very quickly here before you. This came up on the Product for Product podcast.
So knowing that there were limitations and knowing that people who are probably not taking it as seriously, I believe Google Optimize said, we should spend more time integrating with other tools, knowing that analytics is the tool, right? Google Analytics GA4 is the thing that people will pay a lot of money for, not Google Optimize or Google Optimize 360, their paid version. It's the analytics and the integration. So they said in their documentation, we're going to focus a lot more on integrations from these third-party tools and making sure those are more out of the box, easier, more robust, more reliable. That to me is where I believe all of this culminated. Again, big asterisks, pure conjecture, but that's kind of been my observation from my use of the tool and just kind of chatter from what I've seen.
So let me see if I understand you correctly, and I might be blunt over here. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but do I understand correctly that people that use Google Optimize were not necessarily serious about experimentation?
Correlation, I would say. There were a decent amount of people who were serious about testing in Google Optimize. But, and to be fair, there are people who will spend hundreds of thousands of dollars in Optimizely and then not be serious about testing. But I will say, like, if it's another analogy, I'm an analogy king here.
Yeah.
If you go to the gym on a free membership and then after 7 days, you're like, this is stupid. I don't want to go to the gym anymore because I have to pay. It's not a free trial anymore. were you serious about going to the gym? Because at some point, like, are you going to have a paid search campaign where you spend no money and you're like, I expect ROI out of this? No, you have to go into this knowing you're going to spend some amount of money on a testing tool. If you expect to have a Microsoft experimentation program on a free tool, on a bag of jelly beans, like, honestly, were you serious about testing? So you could probably use that as an intro. Maybe there was that partnership with Jelly Belly to be like, well, maybe they'll have a couple and then remember they like jelly beans again, and then maybe order some more. And if that was your way of saying, let's test case experimentation with a free tool, build a case, build a business case, and say, look at how much ROI we got on a free tool. Look, we project so much more on a better tool with this, this, and this. I love it. I think that was a perfect use case. I love Google Optimize, and I will pour one out for the homie Google Optimize as it gets sunset because it was a good foot in the door for many people. But were you serious about testing? And this is my very spicy take. If your experimentation program relied on a free tool being indefinitely free forever, you were never serious about testing.
I see. Yeah.
Mic drop.
No, yep, that's right.
What are you hearing from people in the industry about replacing it, about what are they planning to do?
In preparation for this, I was trying to just Google switch to optimize, and I saw like 7 different vendors paying and creating dedicated landing pages for switch to testing platform from Google Optimize. Right. So these people are capitalizing on the queries for Google Optimize being sunset and saying, hey, there's interest here. Let's build out these landing pages. So there's people who are very interested in this. Yep. The names that I recognize were Convert, Intellimise, Optimizely, Chameleon. If you go to Chameleon site, I'm pretty sure they have like a big banner that's like at the top that's like Google Optimize is being sunset, use us. A lot of people are trying to capitalize on this with intro tiers, free tiers, very, very discounted tiers to get you in it. Almost utilizing the Google Optimize model of go into it with a free tier, prove the program worth, and then once its worth is proven, upgrade to something that will actually satisfy your needs. And maybe you can only, Google Optimize had, I think the free tier had 5 tests you could run a month, which is pretty reasonable for a free tool, although low bar. But, 5 tests is plenty for you to prove your worth on a free tool.
Yeah.
And I think most of these tools offer very discounted, cheap intros for you to set it up, get some worth, see if it's in fit for you, but also prove the worth of experimentation and follow in the same vein of what Google Optimize did well, which is get your foot in the door for experimentation to actually show the value and get a program.
Yeah, it's a great strategy. Yeah, I was checking Optimizely out. They had that page and stuff. So when I was doing the research on it, I saw that as well. I think that's a really good approach because like you're saying, you get people that are still in that optimized mode and that are still like testing the waters out. But like you're saying, you can prove the value of your tool by just offering like, hey, come on board. We'll help you on board. We'll help you get up to speed. And then we'll show you the value of A/B testing and stuff like that at scale.
100%.
Yeah,
100%.
Yep, very cool.
I'm sure those that are used it for a while now, they probably already should have some business case over there to show an ROI. I mean, their ROI was just the time that's spent on it because it cost nothing with Google Optimize, but at least they were able to show, whatever they were trying to experiment and increase in their product. So they definitely could provide that information. And I remember in the past, there were other cases like that. I don't remember now what was it, but I was involved many years ago with a very similar situation. I think I was working for one of those companies that provided software that one of the competitors were sunsetting. Or maybe even they closed down or they were sold out to another company and they decided to sunset their product. I don't remember what was the situation, but everyone tried to leverage on that opportunity for sure. With even technical integration options and stuff like that. So not just, come to me, I will show you, how I'm much better, but come to me and I will even help you convert and import all of your data if you had anything or stuff like that. What do you hear from the people that in the industry? Like, do they go that route, or is it based on their level of seriousness?
When this first came out, I was very annoyed because there were so many people who were like, this is such a terrible thing for experimentation. This free tool going away means so many people won't be able to test anymore. Like, this is so bad. And I had my take that I know like people maybe don't agree with, but if you weren't serious about experimentation, if a free tool going away meant you will never test again, ever. Just blunt, you were not serious about testing. It might make it harder, and I can entirely empathize with the fact that, all right, well, crap, we were relying on this free thing. Now we have to get some work done and transition to a new tool, which opens a whole can of worms of like, will the data work properly? We need dev to integrate. I entirely empathize with that. But if you're saying like, crap, I have to pay for a tool now, if that's your like primary concern is payment of a tool, you just weren't serious, honestly. So, and there are plenty of tools. Like Convert is a little bit more of a cheaper option compared to Optimizely, which tend to be a little bit more expensive. But again, like it's on the value of the tool. If you've proven that your experimentation program is driving like, $1 million in revenue, you can't afford $50,000 to test.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
So I think at first when I heard that, I was like, I think y'all are getting too sad and annoyed about it. And then I had a chance to think about it, and I'm like, this might actually be a really good thing for experimentation, because what that will end up happening is pull the bottom out from those people who are using the testing tool as a CMS, or the people who are using the testing tool to just run button color tests in like 100 visitors in each, and then declaring, oh, it's +3 conversions. That's better than not. So let's go forward with that at 100%. So I think it'll actually weed out some of the lower quality experimentation programs, which will mean that mid and higher tier experimentation programs will have more visibility and get more people excited about the things that I think are actually more important to experimentation, which is risk mitigation, decision-making, strategic experimentation, not just button color testing.
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, because with, like you're saying, with Optimize, it lacks feature parity with other tools. So when they do get on board with these, other tools that offer more, it's going to open up that avenue for them to even get better experimentation and really grow the 100%. Space in general.
I wonder why people had this original reaction. It seems to me is coming more from B2C and social media stuff that people are used to get stuff for free, especially from Google.
Yeah.
Where B2B is not the case. In B2B, you have to pay for doing business. It costs to do business. So this is a B2B tool, and there is no reason why people should not pay for it.
I'll play devil's advocate to myself here. So there is I'm not trying to get all economical or political, but there is seemingly a recession coming down the pipeline. It's hard to ignore the layoffs and all that stuff's happening, cutting corners, all that stuff. Not cutting corners, cutting costs. So with that being the case, a free tool made your program easier to justify, because that's one less thing. Your ROI is theoretically a lot higher. So now you have to pay for a tool, but you have to pay for the transfer costs, although ideally most of these tools will help cover or mitigate those costs of transferring to a new tool and helping set it up and stuff like that. But there is a cost that comes out of it. And if you're paying for a new tool, that's another cost. So when functions are trying to cut costs, potentially laying people off, now you have to pay for a tool. It's something that people didn't expect or maybe weren't planning for. That might make it harder for some of those companies that are like on the upward swing, and that could be taken as a massive hit. So I'll play the devil's advocate there and say, for those people who are like just getting into it and just scaling out their program, that could be a massive hit. But I still think companies like, Chameleon, Optimizely, these guys who are saying, we'll give you intro prices, will help you mitigate some of these big costs so you could still prove the program worth, and then we'll get back to a normal pricing point, down the line. Applaud it, love it, utilize that as much as you can, because you're just going to need that.
And really, Google was the only free one, right? There was no other product like that was completely free.
There were some that were like kind of free. And you can even argue Google Optimize wasn't free because you had to pay for the 360 suite. So you had to pay in some way. It was just the free jelly beans, but you had to pay for the thermometer, right?
Yes.
Right. Yeah. So there are some tools like Microsoft Clarity isn't a testing tool, but it's a free heat map tool that you just install on your website and you have heat maps and session recordings. That's a cool free research thing that is literally free, unless you want to count the cost of like your devs installing it on your site. So I guess free is subjective, but
I think you're right that the example of the jelly bean is so true here because only these big companies can afford that.
Yeah.
If all you do is develop experimentation platform, then maybe you can give like a free tier in the beginning, or I don't know if they have any of those products have free tiers forever, or it's just limited time to experiment.
Yeah.
But it's just not the model that they're in.
Yeah.
It's not their business model.
I had a question about the GA4. Are it's been out for a bit, but they're going to sunset. Actually, they're sunsetting Universal Analytics on July 1st, which is really soon. So
that's right. Different dates.
Yeah, so different dates. But like, are you going to be using GA4 with anything, or do you have any experience with it that you can speak to it?
I do have experience with it. At least I haven't played around with it because right now my tool stack is not integrated with GA4. We're using, I try and just rely on like Looker and our data lake and doing the analysis there. I'd be interested to see how pretty closely tied they are together because that is their selling point of we're going to just integrate better with these tools. Google has been known to not maybe follow through entirely on its word. So I don't know how easy it will be to integrate. But if they're making a conscious effort to say we only have a certain amount of resources and we're going to take the resources away from Optimize and put it towards the integration, I think at least it's worth keeping an eye on. Do they follow through entirely on their word? And are they going to continue to support it? I know right now they are, but are they going to continue to support it? Or is Google going to say, you know what? We think we could actually build a better tool. And maybe they release Optimize 2.0 and maybe they go back into it. I don't know if it's entirely sure what they're going to do. And maybe they see where the market is and maybe they are happy to just be like, just come to us, child. We will take all of your data from your testing tools. And maybe that's the place they just want to be and focus in on and be the like dedicated people for that.
Yeah, they're leaning into the mixed panel, maybe amplitude space, product analytics space more.
Totally.
And trying to focus on that. So that's an interesting kind of pivot for them.
Yeah.
Be curious to see how the GA4 stuff happens and the pros and cons of it as it continues to roll out.
Yeah.
Nice. Anything that you want to add to this lively discussion about the sunsetting of Google Optimize that we didn't touch on?
I think I basically covered everything that I mostly wanted to get off my chest.
Yeah.
For product owners who are looking for tools and trying to get more into experimentation, utilize this. I think this is a critical time period with a lot of focus on discounting and saying we know Optimize is being sunset. We will help you get off. I'd also say as a big red caveat, pay attention to your data. So many testing tools have, especially the third-party ones, they're not perfect. And it can be hard for data to pass through with tagging users, segments, micro-conversions. As you run tests, have confidence in your data. And I would say don't go full send into a tool and spend a ton of time, which can be problematic, right? It can be problematic because there's a certain amount of work that's required to get a tool set up. So there might be sunk costs, but I'd say have confidence in your data. If you run an AA test, if you run 20 AA tests and you keep on getting statistically significant results, AA test meaning nothing, no change versus no change, which should not yield a significant result in many AA tests. There's some false positives, fine, but if you run many AA tests or you're seeing data points not jive, be okay to maybe pivot to another tool. Have confidence in your testing tools because the point of testing is to risk mitigate and to make better decisions. And that's on a foundation of data. And if your foundation of data is crap and you're trying to make decisions off of that, you're just shoveling mud on top of a mud pit. And like, that's not helpful. So like, that's the one thing if I could just tell to any product owners, like data integrity is so important. And just because the tool tells you it's significant, have confidence in data. That's core to what we do as experimenters. You need confidence in data.
That's a running theme throughout all product and experimentation and really all business in general. Is it all boils down to the data and having good data to make decisions on and really sure up your assumptions that you're making. So that's great.
Yeah, absolutely. And I wonder, in a year from now, where we're going to be with all of this situation. If people just forget about that this happened. And like you're saying, there will be weeding out the bad experimentation, and really good experimentation will come out of that. So we should return to this and see, what is it that you see in the next year from what people are saying, what tools they're using, which tools kind of like come to winning positions, and then also what people are talking about experimentation, if they're talking about them in a deeper, more meaningful way.
The cliffhanger I'll leave on is AI the next frontier in experimentation?
Ooh, there you go.
Yes.
That'd be a great episode.
I actually, now you open it up for a whole new discussion.
Let's do that episode.
So wait. Tell us what you think about that.
You should listen to the first episode of From A to B.
Oh, yes.
There we go.
Yeah, but for our... and we didn't even say what the name of your podcast.
I'll give a quick plug. I love plugging my stuff. So our podcast is From A to B. Yeah. Tracy Lorenzo and I co-host this. It's a very conversational type tone about experimentation like we're having here. It's not a webinar. It's not like we swear a lot. It's definitely explicit. It's very raw. So if you're looking for that kind of tone, that's the kind of person I am. It's not a webinar. It's not something that you have to like sit and take notes. Because I just find those boring. I wouldn't listen to an hour of someone lecturing to me about experimentation, and I wouldn't want you to listen to that too.
So go listen to the first episode of From A to Z.
A to B.
A to B. Oh, sorry, you're right.
Like A to B, testing, experimentation. Yes. Boom.
Like yep.
Sorry, A to B. See, I'm such a bad listener to your podcast. I do love the cover. I actually,
screaming. Yep.
The graphics there is great.
Yep.
But for those that have not listened to it yet, just like your too long didn't read. What's your take on AI and experimentation?
I think there is a time and place for AI and experimentation, especially around things like automating tasks and helping with basic analysis exploration. But there's a pretty big conversation around like multi-arm bandits, which is basically auto traffic allocation based on a singular KPI to experiments, to different variations. And a lot of people are saying, oh, that's going to kill experimentation. And without going too deep into that, there are use cases for AI and experimentation, but to say AI is going to just take away experimentation entirely, that a Terminator is going to be running your experimentation program and not, like a human with feelings and strategy and understanding of business initiatives and stuff. No.
Yep.
No, it's not going to happen. Not in the near foreseeable future.
Right. And that's also will be another interesting thing to see in a year or 2 years or 5 years from now, where all of this goes. And if this is a real thing or this is a hype, etc. Lots of noise going on right now. So, okay. So that was an awesome conversation. Where can people find you?
So you can find me on LinkedIn, Shiva Manjunath. I don't have the full link available to me, but
we'll share it in the description.
Yeah,
don't worry.
And then a huge favor, I'm not trying to be that guy, but also would love for y'all to subscribe to our podcast too.
Yeah,
from A to B.
From A to B.
Yes. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, we love fellow podcasters. It's exciting to see you starting a show with Tracy. Yeah, it's a lot of fun to have fellow podcasters on the show. So we'll definitely plug it.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Absolutely. And I promise I will go and listen to it. And is it beeping with every explicit word or not?
We do not beep anything.
Unfiltered.
Okay,
entirely unfiltered.
Unfiltered. Yes. No worries.
Well, the show cover should tell you everything, right? Is everybody screaming? So,
yes,
right?
It
should tell you. It's an indicator, so it's great.
The explicit tag is something we're proud of. It's not something we run away from.
I know.
There you go. Embrace it. Embrace it.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Shiva, and we really appreciate you coming to the show.
Yep. Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate it. Take care. Thank you to all the listeners. We really appreciate the feedback and support. Please leave us a review to help others find the show on Apple or Spotify or anywhere else you're listening to the show.